We should now start. Everybody, good evening, very good evening to all of you, colleagues who will be. Anyway, let me, I have privilege to welcome all of you as a participant as well as we have our eminent speakers. So today's speaker, and he has been for more than 22, 23 years at various positions. So Sri Harsh Kaushik is basically has been helpful in building up various and scaling up businesses in India as well as international markets. And he has experience of more than dozen countries where he has helped organizations to not only grow and build. Training and development has been his passion. He was GM training with Rendaxi and Milan. Also, he was head for learning and headed business as an associate vice for almost years. Currently, sorry, last assignment he was with Cipla as a CFE and helping entire international team building the sales force effectively. So, welcome, Sri Harsh, for this meeting. And I am sure the subject which you have picked up is going to be great learning for each one of us. I also take privilege to introduce our two of the panelists, Yashwant Mishra, who is the Director of Learning Development for Ascendex Learning Solutions. He had been the training lead for more than 24, 25 years with Torrent as well as Piramal Abad, where he has played very active role in learning and development of various pharmaceutical colleagues. Sumati Vaswani, also many of you may be knowing her. She is currently Associate Vice President with Care, and she is ex-marketing head and general manager marketing with Abbott and USB and has been more than 25 years in the industry. So these two panelists will be today help addressing the various questions and will assimilate and help us in learning the thoughts which Sri Harsh is going to talk about. So with this, I will request Sri Harsh, without taking much time, we are already late. Let us start the subject. Over to Sri Harsh. And I will request audience, you can type the question either in chat box, or you can directly also share in our WhatsApp group, which I will take up with the Sri Harsh as well as panelists at the end of the session. So over to Sri Harsh.
Thank you very much, Sanjay, and a warm welcome to all of you all joining this webinar. First of all, let me say that extremely happy to get part of this group that is TAP. I have known Yashwant in the past, but it was a great pleasure of connecting with Sanjay as well as Sumiti for this webinar. And this is how we are forging relationships and newer bonds when during this COVID and this whole lockdown thing happening. So I'm very, very happy to be here and address this webinar. So any form of learning, any form of association, any form of teams that come together, it is important that these groups add value to each other and we keep sharing and learning our experiences, and that is something that is wonderful. So when we spoke to Sanjay and he said that we would what topic would we like to cover, I didn't want to go into how we are going to survive COVID or what is going to happen, but I will come down to one of my favorite topics. This is a topic that has helped me probably learn, probably have a career of my choice, or this is something that I today teach at the core whenever any form of sessions that I do, whether it's the managerial development programs or training sales reps or doing any form of developmental activity. Somewhere I fall back on this topic of transaction analysis. So before I get into transaction analysis and what its application is, while preparing for this particular talk, okay, I went through a study which is a 75-year-old long study done by Harvard in order to find out what is the most important factor in human happiness. So this study, it seems they started before the Second World War in 1938, and that study continues today, almost in its 80th year. I think 82 years they have been studying. There have been 4 different directors, and in this study they had taken a cohort of roughly 740 teenage men from 2 different parts of the United States. One was they were in the slums of Boston. There were about half the people were enrolled, and half of them were graduates from Harvard. And so some privileged and some underprivileged people, and they were studied over these 80-year period in order to find out what brings in human happiness. And this study has been ongoing. One of the participants became the president of the United States. There are a couple of people who won Nobel Prize. Many of them committed suicide. I think today 19 people are still alive and they are studying. Somewhere a few 30-40 years back, they added their families and they have studied the entire dimension of human happiness here. So why am I talking about this study? I bring this study because what did they find? What is the single most important finding from this study that they talked about? And the single most important message that was revealed by this Harvard study is that good relationships keep you happy and healthy, period. That's what the last director talks about it. There are a couple of YouTube talks and couple of YouTube messages. I think it's interesting to learn that if you want to be happy, it is not the amount of wealth that you gather, the amount of success that you make, or how productive you are. If you can build you can keep very good relationships with people around you, meaningful relationships, you will be able to find happiness eventually. And when I read this study and looked about this study, the first thing came into my mind: what does transaction analysis talk about? Transaction analysis is nothing but a beautiful theory or a concept that you need to make it as your reality, and it helps you communicate better and it helps you build relationships better. So whenever I have talked about transaction analysis in the past, I keep asking people that what is the structural and functional unit of life, and it is cell. What is the structural and functional unit of a building, and that is a brick. What is the structural and functional unit of communication? People say words. And what is the structural and functional unit of a relationship? And that is transactions. So when we are looking at a relationship and you need to analyze relationships, you need to go down to breaking it into multiple transactions that built up a relationship. So the basics, and I would like why I am talking about this topic and how I relate it to sales and how I will relate it to marketing, we will come down to it. But first let me quickly run through the basic theory and basic history of where transaction analysis came from, or where this thing started. So the whole story at the turn of the 19th century, Sigmund Freud in 1908 or something like that put forward this theory of how is our mind made up of, or what are the motives that drive us, or why we behave in a particular manner. So he talked about 3 clear motives that drive people, and that is id, ego and superego. He coined these words. What is id? Id, he said, is the basic instinct. People do things to survive. Roti, kapda, makan, food, clothing, shelter. This is what drives them, and that is what keeps people going. Then he talked about ego. Once your survival is taken aside, people start operating out of understanding an ego, that I am something and it is to give you pleasures for yourself. And then if they move on to a place where they do things for some value, some belief, and they may operate out of super ego. Classical thing is that you will give your life for your country, you will fight for the name of religion. So these are all values that we pick up, and we are operating beyond self, and we go beyond ego and operate out. So these 3 ego states was something that people try to talk about, but this completely didn't explain why people behave differently in different situations, and it didn't throw in insights into our ability to understand and manage relationships better. Then came in Winter Penfield during the World War time, did a lot of experiments on the human mind, and he postulated certain understanding of how our brain behaves, or how our mind behaves, or how our personality gets shaped up. And he talked about that our personalities are they are formed and they are fixed till the time we are by the time we are age of 5. So you don't change beyond that. After that you just return patterns. So this was another piece of theory, but yet this was not able to explain and understand human, or explain or relate to human behavior to a larger extent. So finally in 1960, Leonardo Eric Berne wrote a book by the name of Games People Play, and he introduced the world to this theory of transaction analysis. And this theory, he wrote another book, I think 7 years, 8 years later, What Do You Say After You Say Hello, and he passed away, he died. But his theory of transaction analysis was applied by many people in various walks of life, and each of them got fantastic results while building relationships, while correcting people, while counseling couples when they are not married, helping people achieve success, helping people become more happier, catch psychopath killers. So at multiple levels these theories were applied and they got fantastic results here. So the three people who worked on transaction analysis were Thomas Harris, who wrote I Am Okay, You Are Okay. I highly recommend that people read this book to get a good insight into understanding TA, because this is a book that helps you understand yourself as well as people better. Then there was Dorothy Jane Wood, who wrote Born to Win, and Muriel James wrote Choosing Success. Each of these books sold over millions of copies and deal with the area of transaction analysis and its application to various walks of life. So here I am going to try and talk to you about what was so classical that Leonardo Eric Berne talked about in his book, and what is TA. So there are a couple of concepts that we will try and cover in today's topic. I am going to talk to you about these ego states, what do we mean by transactions, what is the stroke, going to talk to you about the concept of emotional bank account, and then move into these applications to sales and marketing and how we can take it forward on this. So I am going to very quickly run through what does TA say. TA tells us that we don't have a single personality. We don't operate as one individual. We operate from three distinct personalities, and these three distinct personalities are not just a construct, but they are psychosocial realities. That means that different given situations and different environments, in different situations, a totally different personalities come out, and these personalities, some of them are fixed, like what Winter Pinfield had talked about. They are fixed by the time you are 30, by the time you are 4-5 years of age, and they don't change. I was talking about this psychosocial reality. What Eric Berne tells us that we've got three distinct personalities, and each of these distinct personalities comes into play at different dimensions in time, and without knowing, without being really aware, these personalities come into play. Transaction analysis helps you recognize from which ego state you are talking and to which ego state in a corresponding individual that you're talking. If we are sensitized, if we are aware of this ego states and we accept this psychosocial reality of having three personalities, we will be in a better position to interact and deal with people. Whether you are selling, whether you are marketing, whether you are interacting, if you want to build relationships, if you want to create meaningful transactions, you need to recognize which ego state the individual is talking to you from, which ego state you are operating from. So this becomes the base theory. I will just take you through a few slides in terms of clarifying what I have just talked about. So what are these three ego states? So these three ego states that Eric Berne talked about are the parent, adult and child ego state. Each of these ego states is a coherent system of thoughts, feeling and behaviors. If at a particular situation a parent ego state gets triggered, you will operate out of a particular pattern. In a particular situation, if your child ego state gets hooked, there is a pattern that you are going to play. You cannot really do much about it. There is an adult ego state that has to come into play at multiple periods of time, but this adult ego state may be contaminated with a parent or child. So there are multiple concepts that he talks about. Let's understand each of these ego state, where it comes into play, and what is the essence behind this particular ego state. So let's look at the first ego state, which is the parent ego state. This ego state comes into play when you are in control, when the environment is under your control. This is an ego state that comes into play when you feel like taking charge. You want to do good when the others are not doing. So ideally, this parent ego state is a borrowed part of your personality. Wherever you feel in control, wherever you feel that you are responsible, wherever the environment is under your control, you will operate out of this parent ego state. Classically, at your home, a place where you are a boss, a place where you feel powerful. This is the place where this ego state gets hooked into. This particular parent ego state comes into play whenever things are under your control. So there are different types of parents that you may land up into. So there is something called as the nurturing parent and the critical parent. Nurturing positive, nurturing critical negative, critical positive, critical negative. It's a classical, we can do demonstrations, but one of this parent is your natural type of parent that is there. For example, I have got a critical negative parent inside, and this comes in from my father. I have picked this up very classically from my father. So I give a quick example to help you all understand how we get hooked onto this particular ego state. Say a small child is playing with a glass bottle in front of you. He happens to be your child, you are under control, and the glass bottle breaks down. What is your instant reaction? Now this ego state will be pulled into, because you are sitting in your house, this child is under you, you feel responsible towards this child, and he breaks a glass bottle. There can be four probable reactions that we can look at it. One reaction, I ask people what reaction you would have, and people would say we would scold him, someone would spank him, someone would be careful that the glass doesn't hurt him, someone would probably even laugh at it. So there may be four ways of responding to this situation. If you feel that you will reprimand the child, you will say not to play now with the child, go back to study. If you give a appropriate punishment for that act, you are a critical positive parent. If you bash him up because he broke the bottle, you are a critical negative parent. If you care for him not getting hurt because of the glass is broken, you are a nurturing positive parent. If you start laughing and you think that it's a joke as a reaction when you see this happening, you are a nurturing negative parent. Depending upon what kind of childhood we have, we usually get into one kind of parenting when you are under authority, and when that ego state gets hooked in, you will be able to, one of these ego states will come in. Similarly, there is another ego state that you operate out, which is known as the child ego state. What does the child ego state do? Child ego state's purpose is to love, to change, to enjoy, to feel, to experience. This is the ego state that comes into play when the environment is not under your control. When you feel that the power resides somewhere else, where you are helpless, you are new to a situation, you don't know, you are not in charge or you are not in command. That's the time where this child ego state comes into play. And this child ego state also has got, there's a pattern in which we do, like we had the various types of parent ego states. Here we've got a natural child, we've got natural positive, natural negative, obedient positive, obedient negative. I'll give a simple example. It's about, let's say, about drinking alcohol and how this ego state plays into a role. Now, a natural positive child would probably drink a glass of alcohol or would like to learn driving a bike. It's a natural process of experiencing liquor or experiencing driving a bike. It's a natural positive thing that a child will get into or get attracted to that. Natural negative is that someone who indulges too much into this. So a natural negative child would drink till he gets sloshed, or will drive a bike and do wheelies and get into an accident. So it goes beyond indulgence. An obedient child will probably avoid drinking alcohol. He will say that, if someone forces him to drink, he will sip it, but he will keep it away or he will dodge it in a particular way. An obedient negative child believes that alcohol is so bad, though he knows that everyone else is experiencing, he will not want to try it, or he will not learn to drive a bike, stay away from these things. So these are patterns. We need to recognize that our choices, the way we behave, the way we talk, the way we react, they are all coming in from certain fixed ideas, certain parts of our personality which are not in our control. If we feel powerful, we behave in a particular manner. If we feel lack of power, we will behave in a particular manner when we are new to a particular situation. So these are the egos, these are the two ego states that are fixed and we can't do anything about it. But there is a third ego state which is called the adult ego state. This adult ego state is not a borrowed part of the personality. The job of this ego state is to inform each and other of data. It's about transferring data. And this ego state does not have any preconceived ideas. But the problem is, in most of our adult life, in most of our working lives, in most of our relationships, where we go into working, ideally an adult ego state should play. But this adult ego state gets contaminated either by a parent ego state or a child ego state, depending upon what kind of a situation that you get into. So our adult ego state, because it is contaminated, we result in missing out a lot of we miss out a lot of our ability to reach out to people. So get very quickly getting into transactions. When two people interact, they interact from everyone has got these three ego states. There are 6 people in a room and 2 people are talking, and there are 3 types of transactions that come in. One of them is a complementary transaction, cross transaction, and ulterior transaction. What do we mean by a complementary transaction? When a particular ego state talks to a corresponding ego state in the opposite person and that ego state responds, it's a complementary transaction. So I ask someone for time, they give me the time, it's a complementary transaction. Say I have targeted an adult ego state response. I seek a permission, I'm being given a permission. Child asks permission to an parent ego state, parent responds and gives the permission. It is an complementary transaction. A cross transaction is when one ego state talks to a corresponding ego state, but that ego state doesn't respond, some other ego state responds. For example, I will try and scold a child that you are not supposed to play with this. My parent ego state is trying to talk to the child ego state, control that ego state. If that child says, why should I listen to you? His parent ego state is confronting by saying that I refuse my child to talk, but I feel powerful enough to question your authority here. He crosses the transaction. Cross transactions cause a lot of conflict. So you need to read about these things. I'm just introducing you to this top. We'll come down to ulterior transactions. Ulterior transactions are more complex transactions. We do a lot of them. I will skip them for another day. I'm not getting into this immediately. But once you learn these ulterior transactions, the impact is something that you'll be able to study. Now I understand. So the number.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yashwant.
Sorry, I'm just disturbing.
Yeah.
This is Sanjay.
Yeah, Sanjay, tell me.
All these states which you have explained, they are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Can you correlate with our doctor and maybe the sales point of view?
Yeah, I'm coming. Sanjay, I'm running down to that only. That's the reason. Let me just get this theory out. I realize that, let them understand these basic transactions. Then I will go down to the doctor and we will try and talk about it. So there are varieties, styles of transactions that are coming in. I realize that it's already half an hour up. So we started about 5 minutes back. So I need to come down to the core aspects there. So I'm just coming down to that point. So I will come down straight to this concept of application of TA directly to sales. So what I'm trying to talk about it, when a rep goes and meets a doctor, again the doctor has got 3 ego states and the rep has got his 3 ego states. Generally in a doctor's chamber, a medical rep is talking out of an child ego state, and the doctor, because it is his clinic, he is knowledgeable, he is powerful, he is senior in age, sits into the parent ego state. And most of the conversations that happen between a rep and the doctor happen between the child of a rep and the parent of a doctor. The standard relationship that we see in pharmaceutical selling is happening between the child ego state of a doctor and the parent ego state, and this relationship is what I call the submissive relationship. Why I am covering TA, or where I cover TA when we talk to any of the sales and marketing personnel, we need to help our medical reps, our teams to build a relationship between the adult of the rep and the adult of the customer. This is the core message that I want to leave behind the impact of TA. So what happens is, when you look at application to sales, generally when a medical rep starts with his selling, he is doing more of what is called the persuasive selling. So that submissive style, doing reminder calls, doing download selling, canned detailing. We today train our people to be submissive in front of a doctor. 90% of the time, we are equipping our medical reps to talk out of a child ego state to the customer, and we do not really build up the communication and interaction for a rep to engage the adult in the customer. Whereas if you look at, if we start doing the CRM, if we start buying the customer, that becomes an aggressive way of selling. So we are basically trying to buy the doctor in or do some deal with a doctor, and thereby then we can hook the child ego state with the doctor. Professional selling, professional marketing is all about doing assertive selling, where we are equipping the rep in his skill sets with the promotions that we create in order to build in the adult to adult selling that is coming in. So this is the essence of what I was trying to talk about. What happens, let me relate this to a relationship. When we are too long in a relationship with a customer, where the relationship is forged between the child ego state of the rep or the company or the selling professional and the customer, this submissive relationship results in low deposits as far as the emotional bank account is concerned. In building a relationship with the customer, these relationships are weak. When you do it with aggressive selling also, these relationships are weak. When you create assertive adult to adult selling with our customers, you will build in what is known as a very powerful relationship with the customer. If this relationship is powerful, you will get a lot of happiness, you will get a lot of sales, you will get a lot of success. So TA and its application to building relationships or to selling better, it's not just about selling better, it's about building a long-standing relationship. You will be able to upsell, you will be able to sell multiple products, you will be able to carry this customer for a long journey in sales. Whereas the current, whatever I've seen in the last 30 years in the pharma industry at multiple levels, I feel most of the relationships that are built by people are in the submissive realm. Today in the aggressive area, many people do CRM based selling, but building assertive selling is something that is going to play a very, very important role. So relating it to COVID, and this is my last comment that I would like to make on this, is that when we look at the new post-COVID era, when you go there, people who have got weak relationships with the customers, those customers are not going to meet those guys. Those relationships, one will have to force himself through, but the doctor will make excuses by saying that, oh, it's COVID, I don't want to meet. You ask a rep who is absolutely into a submissive selling style, today when they have started doing work, how many calls are you able to make today once the things are opening up? They will say maximum we are able to do, कोई नहीं मिलता है, एक या दो डॉक्टर्स को हम मिल सकते हैं. There are people who have built in aggressive relationships. You will see the same story that they will give in something, so the doctor will allow, but calls तो नहीं हो पा रहा है. They may probably pick up a phone call, or they will be able to do phone calls. But if the salesman is an assertive salesman, you will see today in this last 12 days or 13 days of people working in the field, there are many of these assertive salesmen out in the field who are able to easily make 5 or 6 calls in a day. Even today post-COVID, doctors are sitting and chatting to them, they are able to get in the orders, they are able to achieve their targets. So my way of looking at it is, this COVID also puts forward a good space for you to recognize what kind of a relationship that are you sharing with a doctor. Are you building a submissive relationship? Have you built an assertive relationship, or are you into the realm of building aggressive relationship with the customer? So this is the thought that I wanted to live. I have completed my talk here. I think beyond this we will take in questions and be able to probably answer some of them if we have to move forward on this. So I think, are there any questions? I would like to probably answer them. Examples of adult ego state of communication in the well, there's a question on the from Ganesh that is asking me, give me an example of an adult ego state where a customer can talk. Your ability to ask questions to a customer is an adult ego state. Your ability to get into a discussion with a customer is an adult ego state. In a submissive ego state, the rep will talk 90% of the time, 100% of the time, doctor doesn't open his mouth. But in adult ego state, if you are having a discussion with the customer, if you are asking questions with the customer, if you are having an interactive selling with the customer happening, then that becomes an adult ego state. It's through these questions and answers that we built in an adult communication. Ganesh, have I answered that? I think that is something that was the question that I took up.
Touching upon areas and topics in the conversation which are of keen interest to the customer. For example, customer today wants to know how are the other doctors in my specialty managing COVID. Customer today wants to know that what is the telemedicine rules today and how are doctors using telemedicine guidelines, which are useful for a doctor who is really thirsty for information today in the changing. Okay, so medical marketing tools, management of COVID, lead gaps, then tools to fight COVID, tools to manage follow-up patients, tools to manage new patients, then knowledge about what are the drug therapies to be used today in this changing scenario. Like Sanjay, in the last session you said drug-drug interaction between COVID formulas and COVID medicines and regular. See, doctor is not getting it. Thousands of webinars happening, but their answers are still not the question. Equip the person with this knowledge, he will be able to make a mark. The conversation has to change and the tools have to change. In the regular scenario, I would have suggested many other things. Now, physically advisory board with physical presence, all are going to become a little difficult. So so give him what he wants, and he wants today. What he wants is protection, protective gears, and knowledge.
No, when we rightly looked at, I'm just looking at how we treat our medical rep. Look at the relationship between the medical rep and his frontline manager. How a medical rep, there also the medical rep is treated almost like he is into his child ego state. All our conventional frontline managers, second line managers, HO people land up treating the medical rep into his child ego state. Whereas when he is into the chamber of a customer, the customer is more knowledgeable, the customer gets into the parent ego state, and the child is pushed into the salesman is pushed into the child ego state. This resultant nature of a medical rep's personality that we built up right from the time that he is inducted into the industry to a period of time where he probably gets even promoted, he is being tuned to be into a child ego state, and this is what I call classical contamination. There are multiple places where he needs to talk like an adult, ask certain questions, interact naturally. He fails these basic elements of interaction. We basically don't train him enough to become an adult. So apart from leave the customer interaction coming in at another stage where he will go. So the point that I was making is that our medical rep today leave his interaction with the frontline manager, his interaction with the doctor, his interaction with anyone in the company. That interaction also is a parent-child interaction. We have stopped treating our medical reps as adults. We constantly treat the child in them, and when they go into the chamber of a doctor, if that they are not empowered, they will talk like child. Sumiti said that our frontline managers talk adult to a customer. I have got doubts on that element too. I feel that even regional managers don't talk as to the customers as parent ego state. They also go down into a child ego state only. So most of the time, the whole temperament of our medical representation in the chamber of a doctor is of a child ego state. So So how do we change this? I believe it changes at every level. So there are multiple companies where I have gone into the training space, and I have seen how basic conventional induction training programs are done. They almost scare the individual. Which is the relationship that we build with our reps? Are our reps open to question in a cycle meeting? Old time we had the unions and the other things. If someone questions something, he is labeled as a union or a rebel, and we are not tolerant to that. How many? I mean, I have had bosses in my life who want to be called sir, and then I work for American companies where it is okay to call your CEO also by his first name. So we've got this whole submissive child ego state getting hooked into a business relationship, prevalent everywhere. Conscious marketing and sales effort, and line managers and business heads and trainers, we need to see whether we can make the adult of our medicals rep breathe, so that he is able to ask questions, interact, convince him rather than control him in a manner. So I feel overall transaction analysis somewhere has taught me that when you are training, when you are building, when you are developing a relationship, when you are in a boss colleague relationship with an individual, I even shy away from using the word subordinate, because in our culture we think that I am a boss and they are my subordinates. Someone who uses that language is also responsible for getting into a parent-child relationship. So how do we build up or moving? What is the essence of transaction analysis? Our relationship with our reps within the organization, within the company should be adult to adult. This will help him build adult to adult relationships with the customer, and thereby the impact will be better. That's the take that I would leave it with.
Okay. Thanks, Shreyas. Thanks, Shwant.
Thank you.
I think after a discussion of Sumati, Shwant, and Shreyas, the onus comes back on the leadership. As a leader, we need to play a very, very responsible role in making our people or our team adult. I will not say that maybe sometimes or unconsciously or consciously we don't notice this, but our behavior does create these relationships which we need to keep on monitoring, and probably will help us to strengthen this adult to adult relationship. Before I close, there are 2-3 things which I wanted to share based on the last feedback. We will be sharing a feedback questionnaire into the group. We got certain requests that this session to be shifted on some other time, maybe on Sunday morning or something. So if people are, we will like to have feedback on this. If it is 1 or 2 feedback, we may not adhere to it. Whether we can look at the feedback. So that's a please share your feedback. Good thing about is both the webinar prior to this 3 webinar which we have done, there were more than 100 participants who came and who participated. Sometime I will share the graph in the group, the number of participants who have joined and been, and we are getting very good response. So we request each participant to continue participating and share your thought as well. If you wish to participate or share your learning in the group, we will be really happy to bring you to present to the audience, which will be learning can be benefited to everybody. I am seeing here Shrikant Dagam sir also present silently. So sometime from HR perspective also I will ask him to join and present himself certain subject on Shrikant sir. First of all, thank you very much for sparing time. I think he is there, but I don't know where. Anyway. So this is overall. Please give your feedback. Thanks, Yash, once again. Thank you, Yashwant and Sumati. Beautiful session. We are getting a lot of thank you messages in the chat box itself. So, thanks for the beautiful audience as well, which has actively participated and remained present during the session. Thanks a lot for everybody. Yashwant, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I want to add 2 points here, very relevant point, which because of the time constraint, we could not touch upon. And he has just highlighted emotional bank account, very powerful tool to build relationship. In the transition analysis, each one of us commitment deposit something in emotional bank account. And when you do commitment and don't fulfill the commitment, we withdraw from the emotional bank account. That is what we can work upon in building relationship. Always do small commitment and fulfill that commitment. You will build up your account in the doctor's emotional bank account. It is also valid in your relation with your manager also. Small commitment and fulfill the commitment. You will be able to build a strong relationship. That is what a very wonderful thing in the slide I cannot touch upon. Another question I have seen in the chat box, sir. Some of the people have asked, what is the application of transitional analysis in training and development? I want to touch just 2 minutes. In training and development, what we say is you should not treat your audience as a child. It is an adult training, right? Adult learning. Nowadays we call it andragogy, adult learning. So what is the adult learning? Treat your participant as an adult. Don't treat them like school children and you are a teacher. That is when the problem happens. They are already adult and they have their own knowledge. So they build up on their knowledge. So in transition analysis will be very much useful in training and development when you treat them as a adult and don't spoon feed them. Let them do their work and come out with the concept. That is what is my point. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yashwant.
Thank you.
For your final comments. And thanks, everybody, including audience, Sumati and Sriya. Thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Okay, then.
Thanks, and Yashwant, well summarized. Really appreciate what you said. As far as training and development is concerned, and how do we build that up? So very well summarized. And thank you very much. I think it was I enjoyed myself here. Great.
Sirius, we will like to have your session on that relationship, which video I have seen of yours, which will be a beautiful example to tackling the customer.
Zones of relationship, yeah. So we will tell me anytime. I'm game. What has happened is this session also, if you ask me, I suddenly realized that 5 minutes later, taking into the application was important. But before telling in the concept, many of those questions would have probably been missed out. So I think I tried to chew a little more. I didn't realize that it would take so much in order to just get the basic concept of TA3.
No, it's good.
So I went into 4th gear and I skipped in the middle the concept of emotional bank account, which eventually picked up. So I think it was important that we finished it in good time. So that was an important thing. So
it's a very deep concept. So it takes time to settle.
Yeah, that's a compliment. Actually, such a large topic you could surprise so well within limited time. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you so much.